Hard work for me is delivering what you know is your best.
I was told growing up, work hard, put your head down, let the work do the talking. But what does hard work mean to you?
In my early days, I always used to believe work hard was work longer, but I don't recognize that in others. In fact, probably the opposite is if they're working their hours and they can deliver amazing stuff, that's when I would say somebody's working hard. It's almost like taking accountability.
Work towards delivering what you've been expected to deliver and realize that some days, because you've done less, it doesn't mean that you're not working hard.
Hi, my name's Todd. I'm the founder of MadeU. We employ 7 individuals, and this is my duvet flip.
Is there times that you feel that you just can't do something?
There's times when my brain is telling me I don't think I can do it. I can get on stage with 1,000 people and it doesn't bite me then. I can go into a training course with 10 people and it bites me, even though it's something I do a lot. Breaking it down is this an emotional reaction or is it a rational reaction? And if it's an emotional reaction and I can go back to the rational, it's pushing through it. Learning as an individual is exactly the same as learning as a business. I would urge people to push through and at least give it a go, because the worst thing that can happen is you come away with loads of knowledge. Look at all the information you got about yourself and that experience that you're going to use, and it's going to help you grow as a person.
I totally agree with you. What makes a good employer brand?
If I'm just going to give you a kind of little...
Don't give the KFC ingredients away. What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
I think... Hi, I'm Luke. I'm the co-founder of MadeU. MadeU is a people development business bringing fun and interaction to learning experiences. What I really love about MadeU is the fact that we are making a difference, not just to the individuals, but also to the businesses that we work with. And this is testament through our ongoing client relationships.
So welcome to my duvet flip, Luke. How are we today?
I'm very well indeed. Yes.
Well, thank you for joining me. And you know this conversation could go in any direction.
Yes.
There's no, as you can see on the table, there's no kind of pre-planned questions. There's no calculation in terms of what we're going to say, but it's just a conversation with you as the CEO of MadeYou. And I paused there because I said CEO, because I know you're a little bit... when it comes to the word founder and entrepreneur, you get a little bit thingy, and I do as well. I don't like the word. It took Leon around 4 years to get me to say co-founder. I just don't like it. I don't know why. I've not founded anything. But I want to start at the beginning.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your journey growing up. Because where's this beautiful accent from? So
I'm originally from Wallsend, which is in North Tyneside near Newcastle. So yes, I spent all my childhood there, growing up.
What was it like? What was it like growing up in Newcastle?
In Wallsend, it used to be a shipbuilding town, and obviously when the shipbuilding stopped, it kind of declined as a town. I love it. It's home. Got a real good fondness for it, but it wasn't, from a financial point of view, it was difficult growing up. My parents did the best they could, but we were not financially well off for a long time. And
did you know that? Was you aware of that, or were you just like, it is what it is?
I think for growing up till about 10, I would say it was what it was. I didn't know any different. I think going into school, when kids are comparing clothes and shoes and trainers, and you're obviously in cheaper outfits than them, and that's when I became more aware of, if you go home and you say, I would like a pair of these kind of shoes, and your parents are like, we can't afford that, then it becomes a bit more obvious that there's some difficulties from the financial point of view.
And who was your real models around you when you was growing up? We had a few police officers come into school. We never really had any entrepreneurs come into the business. No. Who for you were your role models when it came to work?
So it's very interesting for me, because it's going to sound a bit boring, but when I was about 10, about 10, my mum was working part-time in a shop, and my dad was a manual labourer, and they closed the labouring place down. and they decided to switch roles because she could go full time and he would stay at home. So about 10 is when my parents switched roles completely. My mom became a career woman and my dad became a house husband, which was phenomenal. Very different from where I'm from. It was quite unique, but my mom, my dad, and my grandfather have a real strong work ethic. It almost is like innate in them, and it was always about work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. And that's, I would say, it sounds a bit boring, but that was kind of my role model from put the work in, just keep putting the work in.
Sometimes boring is the best, keeping things simple. What does hard work mean? Because I was told growing up, work hard, put your head down, see no evil, speak no evil, say no evil, get on with the job, and someone will notice you if you do a good job.
Yeah.
Let the work do the talking.
Yes.
But what does hard work mean to you? And how has hard work changed, do you believe, since the pandemic?
Ooh, interesting question. I think hard work for me is putting in the effort. I think you're as good as you can be, and if you are delivering what you know is your best in every aspect, whether that's learning or doing stuff, that's kind of where it works for me. In my early days in my career, I always used to believe work hard was work longer, get involved in things that were, striving for career progression, work those extra hours, put that extra time in. And I still have an element of that in me personally, but I don't recognize that in others, as in you're not working hard if you're not working extra hours. In fact, probably the opposite is if they're working their hours and they can deliver amazing stuff, that's when I would say somebody's working hard. It's almost like taking accountability for what your job is and then doing the best you can with that accountability.
And how can one be self-aware whether they're working hard or not? Because it's easy, right? Because even as an entrepreneur, I have days where I feel like I'm working really hard, I'm in meetings, my schedule's planned for me, I'm running around, I'm like, and then I'll finish late, I'll do A, B, and C. And there's some days where I'm like, have I worked hard today? I don't know. But it's a different type of work compared to being a showsman and an actor and going out and shaking hands. How can those who are starting their career, or now the show has senior leaders tune in, how can they really understand they're working hard or just having a lazy day?
Ooh, I think it's interesting when you were talking about lazy day from an entrepreneur point of view, because it's as you said, it's a different kind of work. Is I can sit on the sofa eating a bag of Maltesers, but be thinking strategy.
What are you doing that for?
At least we're not together, that would be really good. But thinking about strategy and sorting out business growth. So it's not that I'm not working hard, it's just I'm working differently. And I think a lot of the times, especially in our roles, is you can look at a pile of work to do and be going through it and ticking those things off your things to do list. And your brain's automatically going, I've had a really productive day. Yet actually, a more productive day could be just sat on the sofa eating Maltesers and thinking about the next things that are happening in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, and then figuring out the plan to get there. I think if somebody's starting early in their career, it's about understanding what they're responsible for. So it's not the job description, because I think job descriptions are just typeface, like let's get something out there, and it's a brief description, but really understanding what am I responsible for, what am I accountable for, what are the expectations that others have on me, and then am I delivering those things? And for me, I wouldn't necessarily say it's lazy, it's just about if you're delivering, then you're delivering on those accountabilities, those responsibilities, and those expectations.
So understand what you're meant to be delivering, work towards delivering what you've been expected to deliver in reason, and realize that some days, because you've done less, it doesn't mean that you're not working hard. No,
I think completely. If you add it all, we all have off days. We all have off weeks sometimes as well. But I think it's like, if you can look at it over time, over time, are you working hard? Over time, are you being your best? Over time, are you delivering? And if that equates, then that equates. If you are a lazy person for months on end, then you know that's different. But if you have an off day where you just need to slow down a little bit, as long as other people aren't kind of depending on you in those kind of situations, it's like, can you still do your deliverables? And people work at slower paces. And typically one of the big things about, like going back to what we said about working extra hours, is the research shows that if you work over so many hours a day, you're becoming less productive. So actually it's a good point to stop and then come back the next day, and you'll actually do more if you do it that way. So so some of those things, and it's also how we view working hard, because I think other people have different views of those. And certainly with, as you loop back to what you said about COVID, is this, rise in remote working, is managers not having visibility of people sat at desks, is almost causing problems about how they perceive people working hard. But again, it goes back to, if they're delivering their expectations and they're delivering what they're accountable for, then does it matter when they're at the desk or how they're at the desk, or if they're still doing exactly what you want them to do on a daily basis. So I think the world's changing in the way that we view hard work, and it's less about being the last one to leave the office at night and the first one in the morning. It's more about what your output is, what the outcomes are coming from what you're doing.
What is your advice to young entrepreneurs? Because you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder, you're a CEO. There's down days, there's up days, you're winning, then you're losing. You could win at 11:30 and then by 12 you've lost. How does one sum up entrepreneurship? How do you sum up entrepreneurship, Luke, to those who want to be one? Because you do get the fun side and the fulfillment of, I love being creative. Yeah, I love causing good chaos. Yeah, I love not knowing the answers. But then I also like the detail, and I'm like, okay, well now we need to break this up, and what does this mean? Okay, this, and then how do we make that happen? What does entrepreneurship mean to you?
I think you're probably describing it in its ultimate form, because it's chaos. In your brain, it's chaos all the time. And you are flipping between strategy, strategic thinking, innovation into delivery, execution, and planning, and then everything that goes around those things. And there is no set time for things. It's like you could be doing a delivery piece of work and your brain's going mental about an innovation. You've got a crazy idea and you're off on one, and it's like pause. So I think the best way to describe entrepreneurship is chaos. But I think my advice for anyone that's thinking about starting their own business is to be comfortable with the chaos, because it's not something that you can't get away from it. It's there, and those down days are going to happen. The winning a good deal and then losing it the next minute, that's going to happen. The investment that you've got from a personal point of view, because as you say, everything is personal. Even if you try and detach it, it's not. It's definitely personal. So I think my advice for somebody in entrepreneurship, going into entrepreneurship, is understand that the chaos is there, and work around it. It's just understand it and have those crazy moments where you're off on one and you're not doing delivery because your brain's just went on, let's pause for an hour because I've got a thought and let's just ride with it. But understanding not having that pressure that you would have in operational work when you're employed, which is, no, I have to be in this meeting and I have to do these things. It's like, well, actually, no, as an entrepreneur, as if my brain's going crazy, then I need to ride with it, because if you put me in that meeting at this moment in time, it's not going to be an effective meeting because my brain's off on one. In the same way as if I've got a problem and a delivery problem, I have to deal with it, because if I don't deal with it, there's repercussions. It's not like there's anyone else around that's going to be able to pick those things up.
And what's your one tip for people, for young entrepreneurs who are starting to embrace the chaos, or anyone who's got chaos because they've started their own business?
I think for me personally, it's surrounding yourself with positive relationships, what I call positive relationships. And those don't have to just be the people who work for you, because in the early days of entrepreneurship, there's nobody around you. You're basically starting from scratch as yourself. But those positive relationships around you that can kind of center you back a little bit. I'm not one for like people saying, and my parents do this all the time, oh, you're amazing, you're doing well, I'm really so proud of you. And that's great, but that doesn't help sort out the chaos. I almost like people who are much more supportive in an indirect way, is like, let me talk through things, get it out, and then kind of helping me navigate. Almost like friends or acquaintances who are letting me explore those kind of things. So positive relationships are key. And people also who will also center you. So people who say, right, we need to have a weekend away, let's go, who are forcing you to have that kind of work-life balance.
To break.
very hard to get as an entrepreneur. So those people who are like, let's go out for dinner, let's go to the theatre, let's go on holiday, those people that are pushing you into those social situations where you have to turn off your phone and you have to disconnect. So
it's a bit like having your personal board, right? People around you that who's their interest is to look after your health and your well-being. Another one who can help you be that mirror and have that clarity, and then obviously then your support team that actually help you deliver
very much
in a meaningful way.
An interesting fact about me is when I was 15 years old, I was working at a stagnant fairground place in Whitley Bay in North Tyneside. And I started my career officially working on the stalls like Hook a Duck, Any Odd Number to Win, the Frogs with the Banger. And I worked for $1.25 an hour for 10 to 12 hours a day, and in the summer, 7 days a week.
So mum and dad switch roles.
Yes.
Yeah. So dad became a stay-at-home dad. Mum went into office work. That was the age of 10.
Yes.
What happened next? Like, where was your next move? Where did it take you? Where did life take you?
So, education, I was pretty good in certain subjects at school, not in others, but certainly in mathematics was probably my strongest.
So you was really good at maths?
I was quite good.
What made you good at maths? What was it about maths? Just good at
just finding the answer and things. So I think, I was quite lucky going through school because I was fairly academic. I did suffer from bullying because of it as I went through, but I think that made me get a tougher skin as it was.
A bit more resilient.
Yeah, a bit more resilient, which also helped. So it's not that I would wish that on anyone. It was an awful experience in my life, not one that I want to repeat, but it did ground me a little bit more. I went to university, but if I'm honest, Jack, it really didn't help my career. I worked in, as I said at the beginning, I worked in Dixon Stores Group.
So your uni degree didn't guarantee you a job?
The interesting thing, when I was at university, I worked for Ladbrokes. I was a part-time cashier just to earn extra money. Remember, my parents didn't have much money, so I was kind of helping supplement. They paid some things for university. They paid for everything except my social time, so rent and bills, but I had to pay for if I wanted to eat or drink, specifically drinking at university. So I had a part-time job. I started as a part-time cashier in Ladbrokes, was pretty good at it, enjoyed it. The manager I worked with taught me how to settle bets, and back in that day it was settling them manually. Nice. And then there was a weird day that happened where the manager and the assistant manager were both off sick, and I was in the shop by myself, busy day, and I rang up head office and said, what do I do? And they were like, you stay there, we'll send another manager to look after you. And they didn't come until 5 o'clock at night. And when she arrived, she rang head office and said, there's no point in me being here, he's done everything himself. So that's when I was like, oh, there might be management potential. And when I finished my degree, I got interviewed by Ladbrokes for a management role, looking after my own shop, and got it.
Did they ask you to see your degree?
No, because I'd been working for them. So it was all based on that. And then every job role I've had off the back of that has all been on career experience. My degree gives them an indication that I can study and I'm open to learning. But I would never say that my career progression has been rooted in my degree. Definitely not. It's always been rooted, and it sounds weird, but rooted in working for a betting shop as a part-time cashier.
You think the school system's broken?
I think it's not at its best in regards to maximizing the individuals in the room, but I also think it's physically impossible to maximize for the individuals in the room. So it's like things like, I didn't like sports. I just didn't like sports. I never did sports. I was forced for 2 hours a week to do sports. I never did it. I was one of those kids that used to write their own letter from their parents. But I was an academic, so that was 2 hours lost every week where I could have been doing something else. And yes, forced to do sport because of the fitness aspect, but I never did it anyway. So it's like that process was in place, but it didn't work for me. And it's almost like, it sounds really geeky, but why couldn't I do other subjects at the same time? But the school system's not built up for that. And there was loads of people in Wallsend, where I'm from, who were just manual people. They weren't intellectual people, and the school system was failing them all the way through. They were seen as, friends I had who were seen as not being as good as other people in the school, but it's just because their intellect is in a slightly different way. They were manual people. The people that are amazing at what they do, but it's just not in an educational format.
I see the school system as we get a first every time swimmer.
Yes.
And we put them on a racing track.
Yes.
And we ask them to win the race on the racing track when actually they can only win the race in the swimming pool.
Yes.
In the water. And I see that's how, and you talk so much sense when you talk about the system and the school system not being set up to purpose. Now, saying that, I believe school teachers and the school system, the people that work in the system are really trying their hardest.
Very much so.
And they've got a lot to deal with. But why are we still where we are? I started as an entrepreneur and started my first business in 2017. Why are we still got this system that's failing people like you? Was failing people like you and failing people like me. I was bullied in school until year 9, until I took out a paper round and funded my judo lessons and become a black belt judo. I had to work out the system. But at school, they said, you're thick. Yeah. You're not going to become anything. Now, a bit like your maths, for me, it was art. Yeah. Yeah, I could draw buildings and the gherkin, and I was like doing the sky of London. But what can we do for those who leave the education system? And Luke, you're 18, you're now an adult. And in that situation, you now need to find a job, work out what your payslip means, earn some money while having a social life and finding out your identity.
Yep. And all this comes from, it's something that we actually mentioned when we're teaching leadership styles, is there's a leadership style called autocratic, which is the tell leadership style. And one of the things I say is people who are leaving the school system are used to that style of leadership. So you can't go straight into like the open leadership, because they won't know, they're waiting to be told what to do. You're basically being told when to get to school, when you're allowed to have a break, when you're allowed to have lunch. It's very autocratic. So it's almost as well as like, you're so used to being told what to do and when to do it. There's either that need of being told it, or that complete freedom of not, it's like anything goes, and there's nobody looking after that middle bit of how do we transition people from the education system into the professional work? What does that mean for each individual? Because it's going to be very different, and people are not just individual themselves, but they also have individual aspirations, or they don't even know what their aspirations are. And there's certain things, I mean, even it's funny for me is, obviously I did maths at A-level, I studied maths A-level. I never used that. But now in my business, I'm doing taxes for the company, I'm doing, budget planning. It's like all this kind of stuff is like, from a personal point of view, if I took that leaving school, is who tells me what my pay slip means? Who tells me what the tax stuff is all about? Who tells me how to manage my finances? That's almost the mathematics.
Run rate, burn rate.
Exactly. If I'm going out of the weekend and spent on my payday weekend and it's all gone, then who tells me it's like, oh my God, you need to pay your rent? And I'm being flippant. But it's like, that's the kind of things that you need. And it's almost that bridge, I think, is something that you gents are trying to look at, is how do we do that bridge of filling in all those things. And
that's why we're here today as well, Luke, and this is why we set up the show, is because how can we support and educate young people in a meaningful way to say, look at these fantastic leaders, look at all these different stories and look what they've done. And there's no straight line. And you could become an entrepreneur, you could become a dentist, you could become a CEO, you can be a pilot, you can be whatever you want to be. But let's put it in front of you and let you decide.
Completely. An interesting fact about MadeU is when we do management and leadership training, we are hugely activity orientated. So all of our courses are fun, engaging, and increase the learning that's happening within the room.
Is there times that you feel that you just can't do something? And what's your advice to young people who just don't believe that they can achieve something?
Wow, that's a huge question. Are there times when I don't believe I can do something? I think if I genuinely believed I couldn't do it, then that would be something slightly different, as in then I might be a bit more limiting in whether I chose to do it or not. There's times when my brain is telling me I don't think I can do it, but my rational brain knows I can. but there's almost that self-doubt coming in those situations. And it happens all the time. And it's like, even when we're talking about presenting, it's like I can get on stage with 1,000 people and it doesn't bite me then, but I can go into a training course with 10 people and it bites me, even though it's something I do like a lot. So it's not that it's kind of rational, it's just coming at various different points. There's elements of imposter syndrome with that, or not imposter syndrome, but yeah, I think pushing through it when I know it's almost like breaking it down. Is this an emotional reaction or is it a rational reaction? And if it's an emotional reaction and I can go back to the rational, it's pushing through it. It's like what you were saying about getting on stage and saying, no, just, you've got this, let's just do it. And therefore, if it's an emotional, I can't do this, then I go back to the rational and push through it. And I think that's probably the only advice I would give if somebody's having those doubts. And I think also, certainly when I was younger, the problem you've also got is, as you get older, it's just yourself. When you're younger, it's other people giving you that as well. So you might have it in your own head thinking, I can't do it, but you might verbalize it to somebody and they're also agreeing with you. Oh God, no, you can't do that. And it's almost like you're then inheriting their limited beliefs about themselves as well as you. But I think if you can rationalize it, let's give it a go and push forward. And I think it's learning as an individual is exactly the same as learning as a business. The failure comes from not failing, but not learning from the failure. The growth comes from actually doing something and then not working right first time, and then understanding how to make it better. And that's where true growth happens, whether it's individual or business growth. So I would urge people to push through and at least give it a go, because the worst thing that can happen is you come away with loads of knowledge. Not that you fail, that's not the worst thing that's going to happen. The worst thing that happens is you fail, but look at all the information you got about yourself and that experience that you're going to use, and it's going to help you grow as a person.
I totally agree with you. And I'm all about how can you improve the 1%, how do you grow? How do you not let other people's limits direct you? When I first started as an entrepreneur, people used to say, you're the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I was like, oh yeah, another nice soundbite. But it's true. You are. If there's 5 moody people around you, you're the 6th moody one. If there's 5 positive people around you, you're the 6th positive person. How do you make sure that that doesn't creep in and you hang around with radiators and not drains?
I think this is like, it's a soundbite, and it's definitely
something. Go on, hit at me.
It's definitely something that's worked for me, is when somebody is being negative in those ways, is asking them back, if they're a friend and they're one of those close relationships, is what they think you would need to do in order to be able to do it. Because I think sometimes people can come across as negative, but they're being rationally observant. It's just coming out the wrong way. So if you bounce it back to them and say, right, what do you think I need to do in order to do this? And they come out with really good tips for you, that means they have your best interests at heart. If they don't come up with good tips and they're basically just like, I don't think there's anything you can do to do it, then they don't have your best interests in heart. You are giving more to that relationship than they're giving back, and they're basically draining you. So that's when you have to start making some tough decisions about the people you're surrounding yourself with in certain ways. I'm not saying cut friends out of your life. It's not something I've done in those kind of ways, but I know if I'm going to talk about work stuff or aspirational stuff, those are not the friends that I'm going to talk to about it. They're the friends I'm going to go to the pub with. But the people I'm going to be talking about, I've got this exciting stuff, are these sets of friends. But a good way to do it is just check, what do you think I need to do in order to be able to do it? If they give you some good stuff, great, they've got your best interests at heart.
If they don't.
If they don't, then they're not one of those relationships. But you don't need to get rid of people, you just need to understand, when I'm talking aspirational, it's these friends.
I like it, Luke. So don't get rid of people, but just categorize them.
Yeah.
In terms of, okay, I'm having a bad day today, who is the person I need to speak to who will cheer me up? Oh, it's Jenny.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? That's brilliant. Okay, who's the person who I need some advice on because I've got a really tricky business situation? Oh, it's Paul.
Yep.
And that is how you do it. So you started MadeYou in 2014?
2014,
yeah,
yes.
So tell me what made you set up this fantastic organisation. What does it do? How does it help business? Tell me.
So it's very interesting. It started 10 years ago. We set up mainly as a training company, actually, a management and leadership training company. That's the way we set it up. And there was a need for good management and leadership training. We were seeing that a lot. And the hilarious thing from my point of view, although it's not hilarious, it's almost like, was when I was working, and remember I used to manage call centers, so big, huge number of people working for me with many different tiers of management. I could never find good management and leadership trainers. It was always what I call death by PowerPoint. I've got all these PowerPoint slides, I'm going to read through them, you're going to sit there and listen or fall asleep. And that was always the situation. And some people were a bit more lively, but it was the same.
And did more people fall asleep or listen?
Yes. So I think there was definitely a need to bring some more energy to it. And I just thought, I can do this better. I've had a lot of experience. I can train stuff that really works. So there's a lot of theory out there, which is great, but operationally it just doesn't work. So let's train what works. Let's train it in sort of shorter sessions, and let's not do death by PowerPoint. Let's bring some fun and energy. And I always think is, if I teach you something, like train you something, then let's see how it works in practice. And it's not role plays. It's something really quirky, really out there that you play in this game. You don't even realize why you're playing it. And then once you finish the game, the learning is, you see what happens when you learn, when you develop this theory, what I told you, how it works, or the opposite, as in if you didn't use this, this is what happens. And it makes it such more engaging for people. They retain knowledge much better because they're having fun. There's a lot of discussions, so they're learning off each other, not just me, because I'm not like the fountain of all knowledge. There's other people in the room that have knowledge.
Bonding as well, right?
Completely, yes. And if companies, a lot of companies that we've got, if they mix teams up, so they've got leaders from different departments in there, they're getting that collaborative impact as well as the learning at the same time, because they're having a shared experience, because it's games and activities and discussions. So yeah. So that was my kind of thought process back then.
So in 2014, 10 years ago, you said, I'm going to set up this business. Tell me some of your stories. Like where was your vision, and where is that kind of adapted, and where is it now?
It's very, sounds corny, but my vision all through my career has been that the people who reported into me, so the management, and as I progressed through my career, there was different layers of leadership management, that they all felt empowered to have a really good impact on the people that they were managing and they were leading. And that's the same in MadeU, which is how can I help managers and leaders be better versions of themselves? That creates an impact to the people they're managing and leading, because ultimately that'll impact the business. And training was the starting point. There was a natural transition into executive coaching because we realized that certain individuals needed a bit more one-on-one support. So that transitioned, and then we've launched other services, which are basically what you would classify as people development services, but they're really business development services. And it's really hard for me to do this, but I always have a real push, which is businesses need to understand that investing in their people is a way that they're investing back in their businesses. And training, development budgets always get cut when there's cost issues going on, which is fine. But you take that away from the people who are doing the work, then things slow down, motivation drops, people leave businesses, you've got those additional costs. It's like, if you do ROI back to it, it's like, this is something that we need to keep investing in and really helping people. So there, the other services develop 360 feedback. We do performance review calibration to try and make sure that managers are being a little bit more objective about how they're reviewing performance at the end of the year.
You do a lot. You also got a service around employer brand.
Yes.
So I love creativity. I love when it comes to art and design and all that. I really I judge a brand. What makes a good employer brand?
I think if I'm just going to give you a kind of little taster of what we do is, I think.
No, don't give the KFC ingredients away, the special ingredients. If anyone wants to know how it actually works, purchase the service. But yeah, tell us a little bit.
I think what makes a good brand is about being authentic. As an employer branding, from an employer branding point of view, it's being authentic. Is you talk about the good and you talk about the bad, because no business is perfect. And I think a lot of companies go wrong when they are selling themselves as this idealistic, everything's wonderful place to work, and they're not acknowledging the difficulties and challenges of working within that organization, and everything's there. And I think when you can package it up into a realistic positive. It's like got that positive spin on it, but you're being realistic about what it's like to work for an organization. That's when you attract the right people for that organization. The worst thing about being idealistic is you attract loads of fabulous people, and then when they come through the door, they're like, oh, the reality's this difficulty, this challenge is not something I want to do. But this is what you want to do, is attract the people who go, this is lovely, and I see this as a challenge, I don't see it as a problem, and that's the kind of people you want to attract. So I think where employer branding goes wrong is we've become so externally focused to attract people into the organization.
You lose people internally
that
already.
we become idealistic, and then those people don't stay because they're the wrong people to attract, and the people in the organization are like looking at this stuff on social media going, this isn't right.
Where am I?
Yeah, where's all this?
This is a bit catfishing going on.
Exactly, this isn't reality. And that makes them want to leave. So I think the true essence of employer branding is being authentic and transparent about what it really is like.
So talk to me about the little monsters.
Yes.
So what's this one called?
Riley.
I did.
You are
Riley.
testing me now.
Yeah, I did ask you earlier. I just wanted to. I said, you know what I said to you? I said it was like a little bit like my biscotti meatball last night, and I love meatballs.
He does look like a meatball.
Like a little cute one. Imagine that popping in your biscotti.
He's our 360 monster. He's used a lot on 360.
So why did you come up with the brand of the monsters? Has it helped the brand? And where I can see where this is going. And where is this going? Because I think this is genius. Is that one? What is this one? Is this one got little brothers, or is that just his arms?
No, he's got eyes on the palms of his hands and also extra.
Oh wow!
He's called Elliot. I don't know why he's called Elliot, but he is called Elliot. This is Jason and Erica who work for me.
So tell me about the vision for the monsters.
So the original plan with the monsters was to, one of our brand values is quirky. We want people to have fun in the training course, and we don't want to do death by PowerPoint. So it's almost like if we're having a discussion, I don't need bullet points on the slide behind me, but I do need something that tells me we're going to have a discussion. So the monsters came from that kind of like, how do we present something fun and quirky there? And then Erica, who's our marketing manager, has really pushed us to have consistent branding all the way through. So from website to training course to workshops to 360 to employer branding is having that uniform thread of you're always going to see these monsters, and you get familiar with them.
I think it's just brilliant. And I think more brands need to do this. And I think this is where, in a world of AI that's come in,
yes,
we need to be more human.
Yes.
And we need to be more focused in terms of how do you bring that conversation out in people, and you're clearly doing it. And I love this one. Pay your bills, Frankie.
Frankie's all with
How
money.
many monsters have you got?
I think there's about 10.
10.
10.
Is 10, we're going to stop at 10?
No, there's more.
There's going to be more.
Yeah,
There's going to be a whole family.
Yeah, on the we've got a .eu website and a .co.uk website, and there's different monsters
on each one.
On each one, yeah. So
wow.
there's 4 monsters on the UK, and I think there's about 6 or 7 on the EU.
When this idea come to you, was it your idea to do the monsters, or was it one of the team?
No, it was a collective idea about the monsters. And the monsters have been through reiterations. So like 1% getting better each time. We hired an amazing designer, Jason, who's come in just over 2 years ago, and he's made them what they are today, which is something that we're very proud of. They've been good in the past, but now they're
becoming the real deal.
They're wow, yeah, they're wow now.
So we're going to see this on TV adverts soon.
Yeah.
The monsters running on.
An interesting fact about leadership development is that globally, only 12% of C-level have an executive coach, whereas a professional athlete who's at the top of their game would have at least 2 coaches.
Why do you think someone should take training really seriously as an individual? Like you normally join an organization and they put you onto a training development course, and it's in the past it's been, I've got to do this chore. How can people start thinking it as a cheer? I always look at in every job you have cheers and chores.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're there and you're getting paid to do the chores, but you make the cheers happen by the people you work with, the projects that you put your hand up to get involved with. How can we make sure that people start, and a lot do, but a lot don't, see people development, training, executive coach, you said 12% of leaders,
C-level leaders,
C-level leaders have a coach
worldwide,
and the others don't. But professional athletes, they have 2.
at least, yeah.
That doesn't weigh up to me.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly the same as what you're saying with training is we become experts in our field, but there almost becomes this kind of desire to deliver rather than to keep growing and keep developing. And it's like, if professional athletes who are at the top of the game, you can think of any professional athlete that's at the top of the game, they've still got coaches, they're still working hard on being better versions of themselves. Whereas in businesses, we tend to think, all right, I've nailed that bit. And I think that we kind of declassify the importance of management and leadership skills. In fact, even the fact that people call them soft skills it gives me a shudder, because it's like, actually, these are not soft skills. These are skills that impact a lot of people. Because if I'm a manager and I'm managing 20 people, my skills are wrong. That's 20 people being affected by my management style. If I'm the C-level of a huge business, 2,000, 3,000, possibly more, 20,000 people, and my leadership style is not correct and I'm not at my A game, that whole organization is being impacted. So it's almost declassifying the importance of, these are skills I need to keep investing in the same way as if I run track, I need to keep running track and optimizing my skills on how to be better. And it might not be training for you. Some people don't get much value from training. But if you're not doing training, then do coaching, because you need somebody just poking you a little bit to say, how can you be better for the other people that you're leading? And almost holding up that mirror to say, where's your 1%? You know, where are you striving to be better?
You caught me. Now you know why we got a mirror behind you. Behind me, in front of you. You see, everything is a plan.
So I think it's about getting people not to see it as a chore, but almost seeing it as an opportunity.
And what's the difference between a coach and a mentor?
So this is an ongoing debate, and I love it. And what I love about MadeYou is we flip between the two, because we've all got business background.
Yeah.
A coach will tend to be I always say is, a trainer will tell you this is what to do and how to do it. A mentor will say, this is what I want you to do and this is how I've done it in the past. How would you do it? So it's almost like bouncing off my skill set. A coach would just say, how do you think you should do it? And so a coach is designed to get inside your brain and help you solve those issues yourself and help you become a better version of yourself. Typically, one of the things, I love sitting in the coaching sphere and I love coaching, but sometimes you're coaching someone and they just have a blocker, they just don't have that experience. So if you give them a little bit of mentoring, just a little bit, this is what I did in the past, this is how it works, you can then flip back into coaching and you've just planted a seed in their brain that they can work with. So the difference between mentoring, coaching, mentoring is a bit more directive. You're sharing a lot about your own personal experience and helping the other person learn. And typically, I think anyone coming into business should be getting mentored off people. It's like, ideally, your manager should be the most amazing mentor. That's what I had in my previous careers. At the lower levels, is my mentors were really amazing as managers. And that was great. I think as you get more experienced and you're going up, you just need more coaching, but you still need that little mentor bit, which kind of calls you out and says, is this really, you know? So
I like that. And we've only got time for one more question. Are you ready?
Is it going to be a big one?
It's going to be a big one. The biggest one of them all.
Let me put my glass down then. Be really focused.
Yeah. So what's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet, to continue what you're doing, to be a business owner when it can be so tough as an entrepreneur, CEO, while trying to support and empower others to spark that connection and their next steps in their lives and their personal development? Why do you keep doing it? Why have you kept getting out of bed every day for 10 years to do it?
This is kind of probably the easiest question anyone's asked me all day. So my duvet flip is, I get out of bed and I flip the duvet because I really love helping people be better versions of themselves and being able to see how that impacts not only other people, but the business. So it's almost like my duvet flip is about helping others find their duvet flip and tapping into that and making them excited about getting up in the morning and having an impact on work. So that's what gets me up, is driving the same impact to other people.
I love that. And I just want to say thank you for being real, honest, we've had a laugh today.
We have had a laugh today, yes.
We've brought the monsters out. I will be looking at the ones, the new ones that are coming as well. I can't wait until there's a whole family, because I do like the coffee one. That is pretty cool. And I do think you need to name one Flip or something, but that's a conversation.
Oh, I'll get Jason on.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, if you need help with that one, let me know. But I just want to say thank you, and for all your kindness, for coming, everything you do for people as well. And I think, I don't think you go online and you type in entrepreneur and Elon Musk comes up.
Yeah.
Mark, obviously, he's going through his big transformation at the moment, but it's actually the small business owners, the entrepreneurs, it's those individuals that employ the most people together. Yeah. It's those entrepreneurs that are actually making a difference on the ground. So that's why it's so lovely to have you on, to share your story, to share about MadeYou and all the things you're doing. And you will be probably busy for a couple of weeks as people message, and I'm sure some will have some
questions about the monsters
ideas. But I just want to say, you know what, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you for sharing that with yourself, and for joining us on my Duvet.
Jack, it's been a pleasure. You've really made me feel at ease, so I thank you a lot for that.
For that?
It's been fun. I really enjoyed it.
We won't tell anyone that you kicked me under the table a few times. Thank you.
No problems, thanks. Hi, I'm Luke. I'm the co-founder of MadeYou. MadeYou is a people development business bringing fun and interaction to learning experiences. What I really love about MadeYou is the fact that we are making a difference, not just to the individuals, but also to the businesses that we work with. And this is testament through our ongoing client relationships.